Kelly Dean from the Tummy Team, and this is our Facebook Live for Diastasis Recti Awareness Month. And the topic for today's live recording is don't be afraid. So there is just a ton of fear that comes with this diagnosis. Diastasis recti, when people finally figure out what it is that's going on in their body and they get a diagnosis, there's a ton of confusing information out there, and it feels overwhelming and stifling, and a lot of people just feel like, oh, this confirms that my body is as broken as I thought it was, and they really can become very afraid. So if you don't know anything about diastasis, this is what we're talking about all month, and one of the specialties of the Tummy Team, and it's when the abdominal wall kind of stretches out, so the right and left part of the rectus abdominis kind of have a bigger gap, and there's a bulging or there's a sinking down, or the connective tissue is really thin and unsupportive, and it can lead to a slew of problems. It can lead to looking pregnant when you're not pregnant. It can lead to issues in pregnancy, any kind of intestinal problems, back pain, pelvic pain, because it's basically revealing that the core muscles that should pull together and elongate you and stabilize your spine are more like a deflated balloon and pushing out and pulling apart with a weak wall. And so as a result of your core not working well, there could be a slew of symptoms going on. So it's very underdiagnosed and often misdiagnosed as a hernia when it may not be a hernia. And it's kind of overlooked because historically there has not been great treatment strategies. It's pretty much live with it or get plastic surgery. And plastic surgery isn't always the best option, especially since this is a strength and function issue more than a cosmetic issue. It does have cosmetic components, but it's really about how your body works. So why do people freak out? Why do you feel, get so scared? And I think, I don't know. There could be lots of reasons. I'm going to give you a couple reasons why I think, in my experience, we've been doing this for 10 years, and I myself had a 6-finger wide diastasis, and there was a lot of fear involved. And I think part of it was the unsure how I'm going to fix it. You know, I'm not going to do plastic surgery, so am I living with this? Is this how I'm going to feel for the rest of my life? I think that's one of the things. Like, if I were to have an ACL injury in my knee, it usually happens all of a sudden and oh my gosh, it happened and I know. Whereas a diastasis is more of a chronic condition. There's no one thing that caused it. It's usually a combination of a lot of circumstances that set you up to have a weakened area that kind of got exploited during pregnancy or during a certain movement or certain procedure or something like that. It's a little bit more chronic, so it's a little bit more elusive to figure out what caused this, right? And then I think the other reason why people can become afraid is when you first start learning about diastasis, the very first thing people start figuring out is what caused it. Why is this happening? And as a result, they come across a list of all the things you can no longer do. Don't do crunches. Don't push out on your tummy. Don't do sit-ups. Don't bend over and pick up your kids. Don't laugh wrong. Don't hold your breath and bear down for bowel movements. Don't. And there is, honestly, you have to know how to stop causing the damage. But it feels very negative. It feels like, how am I going to live my life? How am I going to pick up my kids? How am I going to carry my toddler? Or how am I going to make it through this pregnancy? Or how I'm going to run that marathon I've been training for? How am I going to do all these things that I want to do with these limitations? And we just live in a culture that hates limitations. We hate, and I am part of this, hate to be told we shouldn't do something. And it's just, we don't want that boundary. We want to be able to do what we want to do. Well, the good news is we want you to be able to do what you want to do too. And your body is made to help you do a lot of things. But just like any injury, you have to understand what's going to help make it better and what's going to continue to make it worse or keep it from getting better, so to speak. So understanding and knowledge of how your body was designed, what is happening with the diastasis, what is causing it to become worse or creating a bigger problem, even with the best intentions. If you're doing the wrong exercise with the best intention, you're not going to get the result you want. So I think it's just knowledge and understanding, and that's where it gets kind of confusing because there's a lot of voices out there, and we live in a very fitness-focused culture, and fitness has a huge role in our lives, but it's not everything. Your body was designed for breathing, walking, and moving more than doing burpees at the gym, and so understanding what your body needs to do is going to help you. Understanding what might have been contributing to a weakened area of your abdominal wall, and then maybe muscle imbalance that's happened over time, and knowing how to go back and repair some of that so you can move forward stronger is really important. So I'm going to give you like a completely separate analogy that maybe isn't as emotional. Let's say, and I'll give you an analogy for myself. Let's say that you have an injury in your shoulder. So I was a competitive swimmer. I still am a competitive swimmer. And I had a hypermobile shoulder. The shoulder joint, it was very loose. And so my shoulder would like sublux and dislocate a little bit and then come back in and dislocate a little bit, and sometimes a lot. And as a swimmer, that's a real bummer because it makes it so it's difficult to swim, and then it becomes like it hurts, and then it gets to the point where you can't even move. So I could and did for a long time said, forget it. I'm still going to swim. I don't care. I'll just power through. I'll power through. And I can do that for a while until my shoulder totally dislocated, and then I can't swim at all. Or, right, I can start looking at what's going on. I need to maybe stop swimming for a little bit of time, work on kicking, start repairing some of the damage because I stretched out this. And the reason I stretched it out was how I was swimming. My stroke would like dislocate a little bit every time I reached, and I had to change that stroke. I had a muscle imbalance, especially after having kids and being in this position. All of the front muscles were tight and the back muscles were stretched out. So I had a muscle imbalance that I needed to work on. And then I had long-standing muscle memory of swimming and swimming and swimming where I used the joint a certain way that I had to back up and retrain. And now I swim fine. I have almost no shoulder pain. I say almost because sometimes I go back into my muscle memory and I don't think about my form, and then it starts to hurt again because it's an injury that happened chronically over a long period of time. The other thing is certain things make this injury a little bit more susceptible. Hormonally, any connective tissue is a little bit looser. I'm very hypermobile, so my body is very responsive to certain hormones, and so that affects it. So it doesn't mean I couldn't swim. I still swim now, and I swim butterfly, which is really a shoulder stroke. And so you can do all of those things, and I'm actually faster and stronger now than I was years ago. Okay, and so take that analogy to a diastasis. This is a stretched out area that continuing to do movements that push out and pull apart is not going to help. It also has an issue with muscle imbalance where the internal muscle is weak and the external muscle is maybe too tight or pulling asymmetrically. So we have to retrain the internal muscle and balance out those external muscles. Certain postural alignments collapse us and put the internal muscles in a poor position, so we have to work on that alignment to get this back together. And then we have muscle memory where because this muscle has been weak, we've been holding our breath, bracing, tensing up this way instead of drawing the muscle together here when we lift our kids, when we lift weights, when we run or jump. Our belly has been pushing out for stability when we need to retrain it to draw in. All of those components are what we work on to heal the diastasis. As a great side effect, your body gets stronger and you now have a better balanced system to stabilize your core for all the things you want to do. So yes, even though you found out that you had this condition, this diastasis, it just revealed that your body wasn't working the way it should. And it's completely treatable. It's not a death sentence. It's completely treatable. There are some limitations, just like any kind of rehab. There's some limitations that your body really should respect in the beginning parts of rehab. And then you build layers of strength and you're able to slowly and gradually do most, if not all, of the things you wanted to do before. You may realize along the way that some of the things that you wanted to do don't really make sense for your goals, for your life goals. So you may choose to pick other exercises. I think a lot of times we do similar things over and over because we don't know the options. There are tons of options, and your core is meant for upright functional strength primarily. And then we take that strength into the gym. Okay, so don't be scared. Get information by credible resources. There's a lot of great resources out there, not just the Tummy Team. There's a lot of great resources. Really do your homework, and really, I would just encourage you to stay away from fear-based practices. We really try not to be fear-based at the Tummy Team. Unfortunately, if somebody's afraid, they'll read anything with fear. So it doesn't matter sometimes how we write something. If somebody's already afraid, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I can't do this, and it's more fear. So, we can't help that, but we really try to be encouraging and supportive and giving you a lot of resources. Our goal is to validate your symptoms, educate you on what's going on, and offer you resources. We have tons of free resources at thetummyteam.com, and we have 7 online core rehab programs. And remember that the Tummy Team focuses on functional core rehab. We treat you at the initial stages of healing and rebuilding your core so that you'll be strong for all those other stages down the road. Sometimes people have skipped the initial stage, so you may think you're down at this fitness stage and you realize you missed the initial stage. You might need to come back, visit us for a little bit, and then get back to your fitness stage. But we have lots of options for you. And through the end of this week, we are still running our DR Awareness Month special where all of our online programs are 25% off. So you want to take advantage of that. So go to thetummyteam.com and check out our online programs. And we would love to help you. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Don't be afraid. Get the knowledge, get the information. You can absolutely do this. All right. Thanks so much.